Welcome to the Restricted Handling Podcast. Let's dig in. Here's what's been going on in Russia in the last 24 hours. So remember yesterday when we talked about Putin being fed fantasy reports by his generals? Turns out it's even more ridiculous than we thought. New leaks suggest the competition inside Russia's top brass to please the boss has gone full Hunger Games. General Valery Gerasimov and Defense Minister Andrei Belousov are basically outdoing each other with fairy tales about Ukraine's collapse, each painting the battlefield like it's an old Red Army victory parade. The kicker? Putin's now quoting those false numbers back to them in meetings. It's like when a bad boss believes his own sales deck, except this one commands nuclear weapons. That same parallel universe mindset is bleeding into his economic thinking too. The country's out of cash, oil profits are crashing, and the ruble's losing oxygen. Russian bankers are warning quietly that 2026 could bring a full-blown banking crisis. Even state economists admit the free money tank is dry. The government's been hiking taxes and cooking up shady new war bonds, which feels like a rerun of the late Soviet scramble when the economy looked strong right before it fell off a cliff. Speaking of cracks in the machine, that tragic story from yesterday about Lieutenant General Fanil Sarvarov's car bombing in Moscow. Investigators now say Ukrainian intelligence pulled off the hit using a local recruit inside Russia. That makes 3 assassinated generals in 9 months, all inside the capital. Putin's got an image problem when his own commanders can't make it to work without their vehicles exploding. Meanwhile, in Crimea, more details are emerging about the December killing of Stanislav Orlov, the neo-Nazi founder of the Hispaniola Brigade. Surveillance footage shows the hit squad arriving in government vehicles. So if you're keeping score, that's Ukrainian operatives targeting generals and Russian security forces cleaning up their own extremists. It's chaos in Moscow's underworld of soldiers and mercenaries. Now, remember those Miami peace talks that sounded like a scene out of Succession? They've actually produced some movement. Zelensky says the U.S. brokered 20-point peace framework is now 90% complete. He's calling it solid but not done. Sources say it includes Western-backed security guarantees, post-war reconstruction, and secret military annexes the Senate would have to ratify. Trump's envoys, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, are still playing intermediaries with Russia's Kirill Dmitriev. Moscow, though, is pretending to be unimpressed, calling the talks meticulous but not a breakthrough. In Kremlin speak, that's the diplomatic equivalent of leaving someone on read. Putin's side, led by aide Yuri Ushakov, is still clinging to the so-called understandings from last summer's Alaska summit. His demand that Ukraine withdraw from occupied territories and ditch NATO for good. Zelensky's team says that's not happening, period. Still, it's notable that everyone's back at the same table. The Miami meetings are slowly turning into an ongoing process, and that's new. Yesterday, this story felt like theater. Today, it feels like the first draft of a possible deal. Meanwhile, Russia's trying to project strength by blowing up as much of Ukraine's power grid as possible. Overnight, they launched one of their biggest strikes yet, 38 missiles and over 600 drones, including 400 Shaheds. Ukraine shot most of them down, but Odessa and Kiev both took hits. Power's out across several regions, and crews are scrambling to keep the lights on. This is part of Moscow's winter playbook. Turn the cold into a weapon. The irony? Ukrainian air defense has gotten so effective that Russia now has to launch hundreds of drones just to land a handful of hits. They're spending millions to knock out substations that get repaired in days. It's brutal, expensive theater. Ukraine isn't sitting still, though. Its security services struck back with a massive drone raid on the Tamaneftegaz oil terminal in Krasnodar. The footage looks straight out of Top Gun. Flames lighting up the Black Sea. 2 ships hit, pipelines torched. Add to that a confirmed strike on a Russian ammunition depot near Pokrovsk and multiple attacks on military targets in Crimea. Kiev's been consistent. Every time Moscow hits their grid, they hit back at the Kremlin's wallet. And speaking of space-age warfare, we've got more details on that Starlink sabotage story from yesterday. NATO intelligence says Russia's not just theorizing an anti-satellite weapon, they're building a zone effect system designed to spray tiny shrapnel into Starlink's orbit. Think of it as a cosmic shotgun that could shred multiple satellites at once. The danger? It wouldn't just take out Starlink, it could cripple other countries' systems, including Russia's own. It's like throwing a grenade into a crowded swimming pool because you're mad at one person. Even for Moscow, that's next level reckless. On the domestic front, the repression machine's going full throttle. Russian courts have now convicted nearly 470 people this year for treason or espionage, zero acquittals. Most aren't spies at all. They're teachers, students, or activists. Some are Ukrainians from occupied zones. Every case is closed door, no press, no defense. It's the biggest internal purge since the 1990s, and it's spreading across the entire country. The Kremlin's tightening control over information, too. Roskomnadzor is throttling WhatsApp by up to 80% and threatening a full ban to push users toward Max, their new state-run messaging app. It's the Soviet switchboard in app form. Meanwhile, the EU's cranking up its sanctions pressure again. Brussels added new designations targeting disinformation networks and cyber operators, including Diana Panchenko, the Ukrainian-born mouthpiece who's been peddling Kremlin propaganda disguised as journalism from occupied Donetsk. The EU's framing this round as part of its fight against foreign information manipulation. Basically, they're calling out Moscow's digital gaslighting for what it is. Out in Belarus, Lukashenko confirmed that Russia will deploy up to 10 Oreshnik intermediate-range missiles there, and construction's underway for a major ammo plant producing shells for the war in Ukraine. So the northern front's getting more militarized by the day. And one last subplot in the global echo chamber. After rumors that Moscow was pulling diplomats from Venezuela, Russia's foreign ministry came out swinging, calling those reports Western provocations and insisting they're staying put. They also reaffirmed full support for Nicolas Maduro and warned Washington to back off its Caribbean operations. It's Cold War nostalgia with a tropical soundtrack. Putin's propaganda machine might still be selling triumph, but the pattern's getting clearer by the day. Shrinking economy, growing paranoia, and an army that's eating its own officers. The Kremlin's trying to convince the world and itself that it's winning. But behind the curtain, the empire's running on fumes and fear. Thanks for being a part of the RH community. Subscribe, leave a positive comment or 5-star review, and most importantly, help build our network by sharing this.